The world is on the brink, and several deeply disturbed and yet immensely powerful people have to cooperate or every single thing will collapse in the world. Unfortunately, they all have incredibly different ideologies and are totally intractable in them. No, I am not describing the world as it is, but Keiron Gillen and Caspar Wijngaard's power fantasy. I am a big fan of Keiron Gillen, his comic book work, and I don't think I have made that a secret on this channel at all. But it is now gone on hiatus, so now is probably as good a time as any to recap this series thus far, and strongly encourage those who have not read it to go read it first. But otherwise, here comes the recap. I'm Dan Umpton, and this is the Doomcast. Alright, first off, do me a favor, hit subscribe and the bell. I make about one of these videos a week. They're all great, so please don't miss even one. Alright, before you do decide to watch the rest of this, here is a caveat. Please go read the trades of Keiron Gillen and Caspar Wijngaard's power fantasy first. Impeccable art and color coupled with phenomenal story that's both insightful and fantastic and sort of depressing as well. There is going to be the third trade coming out at the end of March of this year. So, okay, hereafter, spoilers start, so buckle up. Etienne Lux presents as a man with omnipathic power, and he can dig into and manipulate the minds of anyone on the planet, theoretically. He's a black man who was born in the Caribbean, and he's just made friends with Santa Valentina, a literal angel, but also a hot Brazilian woman. Etienne is an intellectual and is a bit of a utilitarian, to say the least, and acknowledges that the advent of superpowered people like nuclear weapons bears an existential threat to humankind. That is the conceit of the power fantasy, which follows a group of six-ish superpowered people who are all pretty flawed people, too. The central questions, as with other Gillen pen series, are ethics and what happens to those ethics and morals if you're capable of doing pretty much anything. Anyway, the superpowers are more or less representative of different ideologies, or at least philosophical standpoints, none of which are purely perfectly correlated to the real world, necessarily. Lux, like I said, is something of a utilitarian who we discover in the course of this story is not actually the person that he presents to be, but one of several bodies that he's taken over. Several is maybe an understatement. His actual body is hideously deformed and enormous, and he uses the power of his mind to assuage and influence people into what he thinks is the best outcome for the world, and sometimes he just kills people. It's a neoliberal sort of ish point of view that sees the world as a trolley problem, more or less, and sort of seeks to set the cart towards the least amount of people that it possibly can. It's kind of bleak and a little nihilistic, in my opinion. Not only does he kill the President of the United States, he also turns off intentionally the superpowers of thousands of people who would have been atomics over the last few years. Atomics is, of course, what they call superpowered people in this situation. Santa Valentina is a gentle and beautiful Brazilian woman who is a literal angel and was sent by God, we presume, to Earth, and seems to represent true altruism to a point, but is also hindered by the desire not to do harm. Heavy is a Gen X burnout of sorts, who seems to represent a very specific sort of American Gen X contrarianism masquerading as cool. Or it could be Gillen's interpretation of American leftists and socialists in the present day. He does pretend to not give a shit about anything, but is, in all honesty, very deeply concerned about the state of the world. Has very strong opinions, and is, like I said, intractable. He's incredibly uptight and antagonistic, but is also hiding the fact that he has a son who is also a new superpower. Masumi is a reality warper, prone to summoning terrifying kaiju, with a Junji Ito-esque flair to them when she gets horribly upset. She's a professional artist who's world-renowned, but also world-renowned for her powers as well, and her sweet Italian girlfriend has been mentally stabilized by Etienne to stay with her so that Masumi does not lose control again and destroy another city. Masumi, I can't quite figure out exactly what she's supposed to represent, other than it may be the duality of nihilism, both hedonism and depression rolled into one. The Magus is presented as a guy named Jackie Magus, a tech-based modern wizard from Great Britain who uses the belief in his cult to fuel the power of his pyramid, which lets him cast some pretty insane spells, magic as well, by calling forces from outside of the material plane. In reality, the real Jackie Magus died in the Second Summer of Love in 1989 fighting the Queen, an extra-dimensional entity who wanted to take over the world. He gave his mantle to Dev, an American, and his sacrifice in part did help limit the destruction caused by the Queen's defeat, but he seems to represent some combination of anarcho-capitalism and grift to one degree or another. Maybe just modern tech bros. But ultimately it was Eliza, now Eliza Hellbound, who's eternally damned for her choices, which allowed her to banish the Queen, who defeated her, an extra-dimensional entity, like I said, destroyed all of Europe in the process. She existed for years trying to atone, and in some cases in the New Vatican, which is now in Ethiopia. Rather than representing pure evil, it seems that she represents the repression and guilt of organized religion in general. At least to me, manipulated into doing awful things because she believes that she's atoning for past sins. Well, anyway, all of these existed in a sort of rough harmony up until the events of the first issue. When Heavy was almost assassinated by the US government, one thing leads to another, as they tend to in stories. Ultimately, Heavy's kid is killed by Etienne, the rest of the family trying to neutralize Etienne, discover that he's not actually him. Etienne cops to manipulating Eliza. Eliza goes nuts. Heavy puts a black hole in Eliza's head. She collapses the world into hell. Masumi loses control after her girlfriend crystallizes, and now everything is royally screwed. So Valentina enters the event horizon of the black hole that Eliza is disappearing into, goes back in time, and agrees with Etienne to take over the world in 1966. Or at least that's what we're led to believe at this point. So, that's a super fast synopsis, and that series is going to return now with issue 17, which will happen at some point in the unknown future, maybe 2026, maybe 2027. But I always anxiously await the return of series like this. Wicked and Devine, one of my favorites. You know, and anything that Kieron Gillen has done, also franchise work, you know, his Uncanny X-Men, his Immortal X-Men stuff, and Young Avengers, all of it. Great, fantastic, really like it. So, I'm going to stick out the power fantasy because I really want to see where it goes. Anyway, thanks for watching. This has been the Doomcast. We'll see you again next week. Peace.